Hello, sleepy soul. The night is quiet, the world is asleep, and something is waiting in the dark. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and write your country and current time in the comments. Now listen carefully. Rain-slicked streets reflected neon like broken glass. I walked into Burger King, hoodie soaked, hair sticking to my forehead, and the fluorescent lights felt sharp against my eyes. It was my first night back after the breakup. My apartment smelled of stale coffee and loneliness. I could still hear him in my head, the arguing, the silences, the way he made me doubt myself. Now I was here, alone, in a city that never slept but barely noticed me. The hum of the fryer was hypnotic. The cold tile under my shoes made me shiver. I brushed my hair back and tapped my name badge. Sam, I said to no one, just to anchor myself. I hated nights like this. They stretched endlessly, a slow blur of orders and fluorescent glare. I counted the minutes, wishing the clock would move faster, wishing I could vanish in the fog outside. Then, at exactly 3:17 a.m., the first sign came. A car pulled up at the drive-thru, blacked out windows, silent, engine idling. I approached the window cautiously. My reflection in the glass looked tired, my eyes dark under the flickering light. The driver tapped once. I swallowed, took a deep breath. "Hi, can I take your order?" No response, just another tap. I leaned closer. The words felt trapped in my throat. "One, Whopper," I said. The tap again. My stomach sank. I filled the order automatically. Extra pickles, whole onions. No one spoke. The car left as quietly as it had come. I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe a prank. Maybe someone bored. It happened every night. 3:17 a.m. Exactly. Always the same order. Whopper. No onions. Extra silence. I started noticing things. Small things. Shadows moving in corners of the kitchen. Breathing that wasn't mine. The hum of the soda machine never quite right. Sometimes, I swore I could hear the car engine idling faintly outside, even when the lot was empty. Then came the security footage. Curiosity, or maybe terror, pushed me. I stayed late one night, rewound the tape. Heart hammering. The car appeared in the drive-thru lane. The tires didn't touch the asphalt. They hovered or slid impossibly. No one inside. No entry. No exit. And then it vanished. I told myself I was overthinking. I had to. I had to keep working, keep breathing, keep moving. The nights got colder. Rain streaked the windows like tears. I started noticing footsteps behind me, soft, careful, never enough to catch. Phones buzzed with notifications I hadn't set. Social media accounts showed messages I didn't remember sending. Favorite cafes, songs I only hummed alone, even my old nickname from high school someone knew. I tried dating apps. Maybe I just needed human warmth. That's how I met Alex. Alex was easy, attentive, calming, messaged me at exactly the right time, read my moods like pages. He remembered my favorite coffee, my least favorite seat at the cafe. He laughed at the exact jokes that made me feel human again. I wanted to believe it. I told myself it made sense. But small things started to creep in. One evening, Alex texted, "I saw you got home at 11:43 p.m. Door squeaked. I froze. I hadn't told anyone when I got home. I deleted the message, laughed it off in my head, called myself paranoid. Maybe coincidence. Maybe luck. Then he started appearing where I didn't expect. Outside the grocery store. Waiting at the bus stop I hadn't told him I took. At first, comforting. Protective. Safe. But the warmth curdled into something else. Observation. Ownership. I started locking my phone. Watching my own social media like a stranger. The metadata, the location tags, the old photos I thought were private, they were known. Somehow he knew. I rationalized. Maybe he's careful. Maybe he's just attentive. Maybe I overreact. The car returned. 3:17 a.m. Same order. Same silence. But this time, I touched the glass window and saw a fingerprint. Large. Male. Wet. Not mine. I started staying late to watch. The camera footage was horrifying. The car never entered the lot. It hovered near the edge of the building, engine silent, then gone. No tire marks. Nothing to suggest it had been real. And yet, the Whopper sat ready at the window. Always. Alex called the next morning. Calm. Smooth. Rough night. He laughed, but not too much. Just enough to make me forget. You okay? I wanted to believe it. I wanted him to be safe. But every instinct, every nerve ending screamed otherwise. One night, I followed him. I kept distance. My heart pounded against my ribs. Footsteps echoing against wet asphalt. He knew. He knew where I lived, where I worked, every routine. I confronted him. Calmly. Quietly. How do you know so much about me? My voice was trembling. Alex tilted his head. Eyes soft, warm, observing. I'm just attentive. I like to understand people. I notice things. You know things no one could notice. You know my apartment, my favorite songs, my old nickname. He smiled, faint, almost sad. Maybe I'm just good at listening. I remember the cold pressing against my skin, the fog rolling over the street, the neon reflecting in puddles, every instinct screaming, run. I went to the police. Evidence, cameras, phones, metadata. They listened. They believed. The investigation started slowly. The car, the burner phones, the multiple online profiles. He wasn't just Alex. He had been several people, always watching, always learning, always constructing. A campaign of obsession disguised as intimacy. The final confrontation was quiet. Midnight rained the drive-through. I called it in. The police waited. Alex, or whatever name he used, approached the window. Calm, charismatic, smiling faintly. They arrested him without struggle. No fight, just inevitability. I walked home that night through wet streets, the hum of the city around me. Nothing felt safe anymore. Every reflection in a window made me pause. Every shadow seemed alive. Every car's headlights a threat. I kept working nights. I kept ordering coffee. I kept walking past neon signs. But I could never fully forget the car. 3:17 a.m. Whopper. No onions. Extra silence. I think about trust now. About privacy. About the fragility of identity. About the people who construct intimacy from obsession, who watch, who wait, who know more than you could ever imagine. And sometimes when the rain taps the windows in a quiet city cafe, I think, maybe we're all just reflections, and someone is always watching, quietly somewhere, constructing our lives like a story they control. I survive, but I am not the same. I never will be. Story 2. The rain started before closing. It came down thin and silver, tapping against the front windows of the Burger King like fingers asking to be let in. Outside, the city looked smeared. Neon signs bled red and blue across the wet pavement. Cars passed slowly, their tires whispering through puddles. Somewhere beyond the intersection, a siren rose, faded, and became part of the weather. I was still learning how to be alone. That was what I told myself every night while I wiped tables under fluorescent lights. While I walked home past shuttered cafes and apartment windows glowing with other people's lives. While my phone stayed silent in my coat pocket, heavy as a stone. 3 months earlier, I had moved to the city after leaving Mark. Not dramatically, not with thrown plates or shouted final words. Just one morning, I packed 2 bags while he was at work, deleted the note I had written 6 times, and took a train north. He used to say I was too sensitive. Then he learned exactly where to press. By the time I left, I apologized for things I had only thought about doing. So I took the closing shift because it paid slightly better, and because being tired made it harder to miss people. At 12:17 a.m., I was dragging the last trash bag from behind the counter when I saw the crown. A Burger King paper crown, the kind children wore sideways over sticky hair, laughing into their fries. This one was crushed into the trash beside wet napkins and ketchup packets. Grease had darkened the gold paper. One point was torn. The red jewels printed along the rim looked dull under the kitchen light. I almost threw the bag away. Then I saw writing inside it. Black marker. 2 words. Your turn. I stood there with my hands still inside the trash bag, my breath shallow. The kitchen hummed behind me. The fryers were off. The soda machine clicked. The refrigerator fans buzzed with that low mechanical patience only empty buildings have. I looked toward the back hallway. At the end of it was the freezer door. Not the working freezer. The old one. The sealed one. It had been there before I started. A heavy metal door behind stacked boxes and a warning sign that read, "Do not open, maintenance lockout." No one talked about it. When I asked my manager, Tarek, he said, "Old equipment issue. Before your time." That was all. Before your time. People say that when they want the past to stay buried. I should have left the crown in the trash. Instead, I lifted it. It was damp, cold, soft at the edges. I don't know why I put it on. Maybe loneliness makes you do small, stupid things just to feel witnessed. Maybe I wanted to prove I wasn't afraid of a paper crown. The moment it touched my hair, the kitchen changed. Not visibly. The lights stayed white. The rain kept tapping. The city kept breathing outside. But beneath the hum of the refrigerators, I heard something else. A whisper. Not loud. Not theatrical. Just close. Like someone speaking from behind a closed door. "Unlock it." I froze. My reflection stared back at me in the dark window above the sink. Pale face. Wet lashes. A crown sagging over my forehead. The whisper came again. "Freezer." I pulled the crown off so fast it tore at the seam. The kitchen returned to normal. Only appliances. Only rain. Only my pulse in my ears. I laughed once. Small. Dry. Embarrassed. "Okay," I said to no one. Absolutely not. I threw the crown into my backpack instead of the trash. That was my first mistake. The second was telling Jonah. I met him 2 weeks earlier on a dating app one downloaded at 2 a.m. after staring too long at Mark's old messages. Jonah's profile was quiet. No gym mirror. No dead fish. No forced jokes. Just a photo of him in a gray coat outside a bookstore, holding coffee with both hands. His bio said, "I like rainy cities, old jazz, and people who answer honestly when asked how they are." That line got me. We didn't meet right away. We messaged. He asked careful questions. Not invasive at first. Gentle. What did I miss from home? What sound helped me sleep? What kind of coffee did I order when I wanted to feel like a better version of myself? I told him too much. Lonely people do. The night after I found the crown, I sat in a 24-hour cafe near my apartment, watching rain bead down the window glass. Soft jazz played through ceiling speakers. A couple whispered over one slice of cake. The espresso machine hissed like it was tired. I sent Jonah a photo of the crown. He replied in 8 seconds. "That's unsettling. Did you touch it? Asterisk asterisk." I typed, "Unfortunately, yes." His reply came immediately. "Did you wear it?" I stared at the screen. Something in that question made the cafe feel colder. I wrote, asterisk for like 2 seconds. "Why, asterisk?" The typing dots appeared. Stopped. Appeared again. Because people leave messages inside things when they want them found. I wanted to believe that sounded thoughtful. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I had spent too long with someone who made every sentence feel like a trap. So I replied, "Thanks, detective." Jonah sent a voice note. His voice was low, calm, warm around the edges. "Don't scare yourself tonight," he said. "Put it in a drawer. Make tea. Lock your door. And play that Miles Davis track you like. The one you said helps when the apartment feels too quiet." I had never told him that. I listened again. The cafe jazz blurred with the rain. Maybe I had mentioned it. I told myself it made sense. The next night at work, the crown was back in the trash. Not my backpack. The trash. Same tear. Same grease stain. Same words. "Your turn." My hands went numb. "Tarek?" I called. He was in the office counting cash. His chair creaked. "What? Did someone go through my bag?" He looked up slowly. "What?" I showed him the crown. For the first time since I'd started there, his face changed. Not fear exactly. Recognition. "Where did you find that?" In the trash. Throw it out. I did. Then throw it out again. His voice had gone flat. Tarek, I said, what happened with the freezer? He looked toward the hallway. The old freezer door waited behind cardboard boxes and dust. There was an accident. What kind? The kind people lose jobs over. Did someone die? He did not answer. The building hummed. Rain pressed against the back exit. Tarek took the crown from my hand with 2 fingers and put it in the sink. He turned on the tap. Water flattened the paper. The ink bled. Go home after we finish, he said. I wanted to ask more, but his face had closed. On my walk home, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A voice note. No text. I should have deleted it. Instead, I stood under the awning of a closed pharmacy, rain dripping from the edge, and pressed play. Static. Then my own voice. Not a recording I remembered making. My voice, soft and tired, saying, I just want someone to choose me without turning it into punishment. I nearly dropped the phone. That sentence was from therapy, a session I attended online, in my apartment, with headphones in. No one had heard it. No one should have. Then another sound came through the voice note. A low kitchen hum. A whisper beneath it. Unlock it. I ran home. The apartment hallway smelled like wet coats and old carpet. A television murmured behind one door. Music thumped softly through another wall. My hands shook so badly I missed the keyhole twice. Inside, everything looked normal. Too normal. The lamp beside my bed. The mug in the sink. The blanket folded badly on the couch. My laptop asleep on the table. Then I saw the Burger King crown sitting on my pillow. Dry. Uncreased. Clean. Inside it, written in black marker. Your turn, Lena. Only Mark had called me Lena. My name was Elena. Mark shortened it when he was angry, when he wanted me smaller. My phone buzzed. Jonah, you home? I backed against the door. Another message. You always forget to check the bedroom first. I stopped breathing. Then, that was a joke. Sorry. Too much? Asterisk asterisk. I wanted to believe it. I wanted badly to believe anything else. I called him. He answered on the first ring. Elena, he said softly. You sound panicked. How do you know where I live? A pause. Not long. Just enough to feel chosen. You told me the neighborhood. Not my building. You sent a photo from your window once. Reflections show more than people think. The calmness of his answer made it worse. Did you put something in my apartment? No. Jonah, I'm worried about you. The way he said it reminded me of Mark. Not the voice. The shape of it. Concern used as a leash. I got a voice note, I said. What voice note? My therapy session. Silence. Then a soft inhale. You should check your laptop camera. I looked at the sleeping screen. The tiny black eye above it. Rain clicked against the window. My refrigerator hummed. Somewhere upstairs, footsteps crossed a floorboard and stopped. How would you know that? I asked. Jonah's voice lowered. Because people leave doors open when they're lonely. I hung up. For a while I did nothing. Fear is not always screaming. Sometimes fear is sitting on your kitchen floor, listening to the buzz of your own phone, realizing every private corner of your life may have been entered while you were busy surviving. I covered my laptop camera with tape. Then I checked my email. At 1:42 a.m., there were password reset requests for my banking app, my dating profile, my cloud storage. At 1:44 a.m., I found a new login from an unknown device. At 1:46 a.m., my phone buzzed again. A photo, me at the cafe, taken from outside through rain-streaked glass. I was sitting alone looking down at my cup. The next photo was older, me leaving work, then one outside my apartment, then one from inside my apartment hallway. The last image showed the sealed freezer door at Burger King. Someone had moved the boxes aside. The caption read, "You hear it because you know what locked rooms are for." I didn't go to work the next day. Tarek called 7 times. I ignored him until he sent one message. Come in before closing. Not alone. Bring police if you have to. I should have told you, asterisk asterisk. So I did. 2 officers came with me because I showed them the photos, the voice note, the logins. The younger one, Officer Bell, listened seriously. The older one looked tired but not dismissive. Rain had stopped by then, but the city still shone wet. Burger King looked smaller with police inside it. Tarek waited near the counter, face gray under the lights. He told us what happened. 5 years earlier, a shift supervisor named Marcus Vale had locked a teenage employee in the old freezer as a joke. The release latch failed. She was found alive but severely injured from the cold. Marcus blamed maintenance. The company settled quietly. The freezer was sealed. Marcus disappeared before charges became serious. The girl's name was Nina. She had worn a paper crown during her breaks. My throat tightened. "Why write your turn?" Officer Bell asked. Tarek looked at me, because Marcus used to say that before making someone do closing tasks. Your turn. Your mess. Your fault. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A live audio file started playing by itself. Kitchen hum. A breath. Then Jonah's voice. Except not Jonah. Older. Closer. "People always need a story," he said through the speaker. A haunted freezer. A cursed crown. A dead girl. It makes fear easier when you give it a shape. Officer Bell took my phone. "Where are you?" she asked. The voice chuckled softly. "In the place she keeps returning to." A sound came from the back hallway. Metal shifting. The old freezer door. Tarek whispered, "No." The officers moved first. I followed because terror has gravity. The boxes were pushed aside. The warning sign hung crooked. On the floor lay a small speaker. Beside it, a burner phone, a black marker, and a laptop showing my apartment camera feed, my emails, my dating profile, my old social media posts, my therapy portal login. Dozens of folders. Not just mine. Women's names, photos, scam shots, voice samples, dating profiles, constructed conversations. Jonah was not one person. He was a mask. A profile built from whatever each victim needed. Comforting, patient, familiar. He had scraped our posts, breached accounts, copied voices, tracked locations through metadata, sent messages from burners, placed objects where we would find them. He didn't want money. He wanted access. He wanted to become the voice inside a person's life. Then we heard footsteps above us. The roof access door slammed. Officer Bell ran. The older officer shouted into his radio. Tarek grabbed my arm and pulled me back from the freezer. For 1 second, I saw movement in the kitchen window. A reflection. A man in a dark coat outside, across the alley, watching through rain-fogged glass. Not handsome. Not monstrous. Ordinary. That was the worst part. He lifted one hand. 2 fingers touching an invisible crown. Then he turned and ran. They caught him 3 blocks away near the bus terminal. His name was Marcus Vale, but on my phone and my messages, in the warm, careful voice notes I had saved like medicine, he was Jonah. Later, the police told me there had been others. Different restaurants, different cities, different stories. A lost necklace, a child's drawing, a voicemail from a dead parent. He studied people the way burglars study locks. He learned where grief left the window open. The freezer was never haunted. The whispers came from speakers hidden in vents. The crown had been planted. My apartment had been entered with a copied key from a lockbox photo I once posted without noticing the numbers were visible. My therapy audio had been captured through spyware hidden in a fake invoice attachment. Every impossible detail had a method that made it less supernatural. It did not make it less terrifying. Months passed. I moved again, changed my number, deleted old accounts, covered cameras, stopped posting windows, coffee cups, street corners, reflections. For a while, every phone buzz made my stomach close. Every appliance hum sounded like a voice about to form. At night, I played soft jazz because silence had become too large. Sometimes I still dreamed of that crown. Not bloody, not burning, just paper, cheap gold, a child's thing, ruined by adult hands. I kept thinking about how badly I had wanted Jonah to be real. How quickly loneliness can become evidence. How tenderness in the wrong hands is not tenderness at all. It is surveillance with a soft voice. People think privacy is about secrets. It isn't. Privacy is where the self rests. It is where memory breathes without being watched. It is where pain belongs to you before someone else learns how to use it. I survived because I stopped explaining away the feeling in my body. The tightening, the pause, the small cold knowledge that something was wrong. I used to think trust meant leaving the door open. Now I think trust is knowing who has earned a key, and who is only listening from the other side, waiting for their turn. Story 3. The rain started the night I moved into the apartment above the laundromat. It came down in thin silver lines, tapping the window like fingernails. The city outside looked unfinished. Neon signs trembled in puddles. Cars passed with wet sighs. Somewhere below me, washing machines turned in slow circles, humming through the floorboards like tired hearts. I had come there after Daniel, after the shouting, after the quiet apologies that somehow hurt worse. After I packed my life into 3 boxes and left before sunrise because I knew if he woke up, I would stay. The apartment was small. 1 room, 1 window, 1 radiator that hissed at night like it knew secrets. I told myself it was enough. I told myself I was rebuilding. I got the night shift at Burger King because night felt easier than day. Fewer customers, fewer questions, fewer people looking directly at me. The restaurant sat on the corner of Mason and 4th, under a red sign that flickered whenever it rained. Across the street was a closed pharmacy. Next door, a jazz bar with blue light in the windows and old men smoking beneath the awning. Inside, everything smelled like oil, salt, bleach, and warm bread, and near the entrance sat the mascot. A plastic Burger King figure, life-sized, smiling with a crown and a frozen wave. Everyone hated it. "It watches you clean," Mara said on my first night. She was 19, sharp-eyed, always chewing mint gum. "It's decoration," I said. She looked at me, then at the statue. "Yeah, that's what they want you to think." I laughed because she did. I needed people to be funny. I needed the world to be ordinary. At first, the statue stayed by the door. It stood beside the trash bins, smiling at drunk customers and delivery drivers. I barely noticed it after a week. Then one night, after closing, I found it near the counter. Not by the door, near the counter. Its plastic shoes were facing the register. I stood there with a mop in my hand, listening to the fryer vents tick as they cooled. "Mara?" I called. She came from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "What? Did you move the mascot?" She stared at it. "No." We both smiled. Not because it was funny, because people smile when they do not want fear to become real. "Maybe Luis did," she said. Luis was our manager. He was in the office counting cash, headphones in, nodding to music none of us could hear. He denied it. The next night, the mascot was back by the door. So we forgot about it, or tried to. 2 weeks after I started, I matched with someone on a dating app. His name was Evan. His profile had 1 picture. Not handsome exactly. Gentle, dark hair, soft eyes, a bookstore behind him. His bio said, "I like quiet places and people who notice small things." I almost swiped left. Then I didn't. He messaged first. "Rain always makes cities look honest." I read that sentence 3 times. It felt written for me. We talked every night after my shift. He asked careful questions, not hungry questions. Not the way Daniel used to ask, like every answer was evidence. Evan asked like he was holding something fragile. "What do you do after work?" he asked one night. I was sitting by my apartment window, still smelling like fries, watching fog blur the streetlights. "Shower. Tea. Usually stare at my phone until I hate myself." He sent a voice note. His voice was low, calm. "That sounds lonely." I closed my eyes. It was. I told him things too soon. About Daniel. About moving. About how silence felt dangerous now. About how I slept with the hallway light coming through the crack under my door because total darkness made my chest tighten. Evan never rushed me. He never said, "You're safe now," he said. "Your body is still trying to protect you." I wanted to believe it. Maybe that was the first mistake. At work, the mascot moved again, this time to table 7. Table 7 was beside the window, under the Employee of the Month photo. My photo. Luis had taken it without warning. I looked pale beneath the fluorescent lights, holding a paper crown, trying to smile like I belonged somewhere. The mascot sat facing it, not standing, sitting. Its plastic hands rested on the table. Its smile aimed directly at my picture. Mara whispered, "Nope." Luis checked the security cameras. That was when things stopped being funny. At 2:13 a.m., the camera glitched. Just static. 20 seconds. When the image returned, the mascot was sitting at table 7. Luis replayed it 4 times. No person, no shadow, no movement, just static. Then the mascot. "Camera's old," he said. His voice was flat. Mara looked at me. I looked away. That night, Evan messaged me before I even got home. "Rough shift." I stopped walking. Rain fell around me. The street was empty except for a taxi idling at the light. I typed, "Why?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "You seem tense." I stared at the screen until it went dark and showed my reflection. Wet hair, tired eyes, a woman trying to become someone else. I told myself it made sense. Maybe I had mentioned work was weird. Maybe he guessed. Maybe some people were just perceptive. When I got to my apartment, there was tea outside my door. Chamomile. My brand. The one I bought from the corner cafe because the grocery store version tasted like paper. No note. Just the box, dry beneath the hallway light. The building was quiet. Too quiet. A radiator clicked behind a wall. Someone's TV murmured below me. From the laundromat, dryers turned and turned. My phone buzzed. "Evan, you should sleep early tonight, Lena." I had never told him my old nickname. Lena. Daniel called me that when he wanted to sound gentle after being cruel. My mother had called me that when I was little. I had not used it online. Not anywhere. My hand went cold. I wrote, "Why did you call me that?" No answer. Then another voice note arrived. I played it on low volume. At first, there was only breathing. Then Evan's voice. Soft, almost amused. Because names are doors. People forget how many they leave open. I blocked him. Immediately. My apartment became smaller after that. Every sound changed meaning. Footsteps in the hallway. A phone vibrating in another room. Music through the walls. The soft jazz from the bar drifting up at closing time. I started checking the peephole before brushing my teeth. I pushed a chair under the doorknob. I taped a strand of hair across the doorframe before sleeping. In the morning, the hair was still there, but my phone battery was drained. Settings showed an app one didn't remember installing. A weather app. No icon. No name under storage, just numbers. I deleted it. Then I changed every password I had. Email, social media, bank, dating app, everything. At work, I told Mara. She didn't laugh this time. "Could be Daniel?" she asked. I wanted to say no, but Daniel had known my routines. My favorite tea, my nickname, my fear of dark rooms. He also knew how to sound sorry. I checked his social media from Mara's phone. His page was private now. Profile photo changed. No recent posts. But his following list had one public account. A blank profile called quietplaces_17. It followed me. It followed Mara. It followed the Burger King location account. It followed 3 other women whose faces looked strangely like mine. Dark hair, tired eyes, soft mouths that seemed trained not to complain. I felt something open inside me. Not fear exactly. Recognition. The mascot was at table 7 again that night. Luis had locked it in the storage room after the camera incident. I saw him do it. He wrapped a chain through the handles and clicked the padlock shut. Still at 1:47 a.m., it sat beneath my photo. Crown tilted, smile bright, hands on the table. Mara started crying without sound. Luis called corporate first, which was absurd. Then he called the police, which was less absurd but still felt too late. While we waited, the power went out. The whole restaurant dropped into black. The fryers died. The vents stopped. The neon sign outside blinked once and vanished. For 3 seconds, there was no sound except rain and Mara breathing. Then my phone buzzed. A new voice note from an unknown number. I did not play it. I did not move. Then I heard it. A phone playing somewhere inside the restaurant. Evan's voice. Not from my hand. From the dark near table 7. "Lena," it said. Mara whispered my name. Luis shouted, "Who's there?" The emergency lights came on. Red. Dim. The mascot was gone. In its place, on table 7, was a phone. An old burner phone. Screen cracked. Voice note still playing. But the voice changed halfway through. It became mine. My voice. From old videos. From calls. From somewhere. "I'm fine," my recorded voice said. "I just need space." The same sentence I had sent Daniel the night I left. The police arrived 12 minutes later. They found the mascot in the men's bathroom, lying on its side beneath the sinks. Inside the hollow plastic body, behind a panel cut open and resealed, they found a tracker, a small speaker, a battery pack, and a cheap camera lens hidden in one eye. Not supernatural. Worse. Human. Intentional. Patient. The officers asked questions beneath fluorescent lights while rain blurred the windows. Had I noticed anyone? Had I been threatened? Was there an ex-partner? Had I shared my location online? Had I clicked suspicious links? Had I received messages? Yes. Yes. Maybe. Yes. Probably. I gave them everything. Screenshots. Voice notes. The burner phone. The fake profile. The tea box. My hands shook so badly Mara had to hold the paper cup of water for me. 2 days later, they found Evan. Except his name was not Evan. It was Adrian Vale. He had worked part-time for a cleaning contractor that serviced fast food restaurants after hours. Not ours officially, but he had access badges copied from someone who did. He had no connection to Daniel. That somehow made it worse. Daniel had hurt me because he knew me. Adrian had studied me because he wanted to. Police found folders on his laptop. Names, photos, schedules, voice samples, metadata from images, maps of routines, fake dating profiles, AI-generated voice tests. He had built people for each victim. For one woman, he was a widowed architect. For another, a grief counselor. For me, he became Evan. Quiet, patient, safe. He had taken details from everywhere. A tagged cafe photo. A playlist I made public 3 years ago. An old birthday post from my mother calling me Lena. A delivery receipt screenshot where my apartment street reflected faintly in the window behind me. My employee photo from the Burger King social media page. He did not need to break into my life. I had left enough pieces outside. That was what haunted me. Not stupidity, not blame, just the modern horror of being visible. The confrontation happened in a police interview room with a glass wall between us. I agreed because I thought seeing him would make him smaller. It didn't. He looked ordinary. That was the worst part. No monster eyes, no cruel smile. Just a tired man in a gray sweatshirt, sitting with his hands folded. He looked at me like we were finishing a conversation. "I never touched you," he said. His voice was Evan's voice. My stomach turned. "You moved the statue. I created a pattern you would notice. You scared me. I made you pay attention." The detective beside me shifted, but I raised my hand slightly. I wanted to hear it. I needed to understand the shape of the cage. "Why me?" I asked. Adrian leaned back. The fluorescent light made his skin look flat. "Because you wanted to be understood." I hated him for being right. Not because it excused anything. Because he had found the tenderest part of me and called it a weakness. "You don't know me," I said. He smiled faintly. I knew enough. That sentence stayed with me longer than I wanted. Afterward, I stopped working nights. Luis transferred me to mornings. Mara quit and started taking classes online. The mascot disappeared into evidence, then storage, then some legal place I never asked about. Table 7 stayed empty for months. Customers sat everywhere else without knowing why. I moved apartments again. Third floor this time. More light. No laundromat below. I deleted old accounts. Removed tags. Changed phone numbers. Covered my webcam. Turned off location history. Learned about metadata, two-factor authentication, privacy settings, data brokers, reverse image search. I became careful. Careful is not the same as healed. Some nights, rain still wakes me. I lie still and listen. The refrigerator humming. A car passing outside. Distant sirens folding into the dark. A phone buzzing in someone else's apartment. Footsteps in the hallway that stop too close to my door. Then continue. I do not trust silence anymore, but I am learning not to mistake fear for wisdom. Sometimes I pass a Burger King and see the bright windows, the plastic seats, the tired workers under fluorescent light. I think about Table 7, about my photo, about a smiling statue watching a version of me that wanted so badly to be seen. That is the thing about loneliness. It makes attention feel like rescue. And that is the thing about obsession. It studies the shape of your wounds, then knocks using the voice you hoped would save you. Privacy is not secrecy. Boundaries are not cruelty. Trust is not proof that someone knows you. Sometimes, the person who knows every detail is not the person who loves you. Sometimes, they are only the person who looked the longest. Story 4. Rain makes every city look like it is trying to forget itself. That was what I thought the first night I worked alone at the cafe. The neon sign outside flickered red across the wet pavement. Coffee, sandwiches, open late. The words bled into puddles and trembled whenever a bus passed. Inside, the espresso machine hummed like something sleeping with one eye open. Soft jazz played from the ceiling speakers. Too quiet to comfort me, too familiar to ignore. I had moved to the city 3 months after the breakup. That word was too small for what happened. Breakup sounded clean, like two people shaking hands beside a closed door. What happened to me was slower. A year of being corrected, watched, told I was too sensitive, too forgetful, too hard to love. By the end, I apologized for breathing too loudly. I slept with my phone face down. I stopped wearing perfume because he said it made me seem available. So I moved. New street, new apartment, new job behind a register in a 24-hour cafe near the train station. I told myself it was healing. Mostly it was silence. My apartment had thin walls and one radiator that hissed all night. I ate dinner standing up. I learned which floorboards creaked. I listened to rain tapping the windows and pretended it sounded like company. At work, I liked the order screen. It was simple. Name, meal, time. People came in tired and wet, asked for coffee, paid, left. No one wanted much from me. No one asked where I had been. No one touched the careful parts of my life. Then, at 11:07 p.m., an order appeared by itself. Mara Voss, tuna melt, 11:22 p.m. I stared at the screen. No one stood at the counter. No one waited near the self-order kiosk. The cafe was empty except for a delivery driver asleep at the corner table, his hood pulled low, rainwater pooling under his shoes. I tapped the screen. The order stayed. I checked the kiosk. Blank. I checked the online orders. Nothing. The printer clicked. A receipt slid out. Mara Voss. Tuna melt. 11:22 p.m. I laughed once. Not because it was funny. Because I needed it to be. System glitch, I whispered. My voice sounded small beneath the hum of the refrigerators. At 11:19, the bell above the door rang. A woman stepped in, shaking rain from a black umbrella. Mid-40s. Pale coat, silver earrings. She looked exhausted in the way people look when they have been polite all day. "Hi," she said. "Can I get a tuna melt?" My hand went still above the register. "What name?" She smiled faintly. "Mara." The jazz kept playing. Outside, a siren moved through the fog, distant and thin. I made her sandwich. I told myself maybe she had placed the order earlier and the system delayed it. Maybe there was a sync issue. Maybe there was an explanation, and I was just tired. I wanted to believe it. Mara sat by the window. She ate half the sandwich and checked her phone. At 11:22, she looked up suddenly, like someone had called her name from outside. Then she stood, left her umbrella, walked into the rain. I watched her cross the street toward the alley beside the closed pharmacy. She never came back for the umbrella. The next morning, 2 police officers came in asking about security footage. Mara Voss was missing. Last seen near our cafe at approximately 11:22 p.m. The officer said it gently. Approximately, but I had the receipt in my pocket. I had folded it 4 times and carried it home like a curse. That night, I matched with a man named Leo on a dating app. I almost deleted the app every day. I kept it because loneliness has its own hunger. It makes strangers look like doors. Leo's profile was soft in a calculated way. One blurry picture in a bookstore. One with a dog that probably wasn't his. Bio, asterisk I make good soup. I listened carefully, trying to be less afraid of winter, asterisk. I liked that line, trying to be less afraid of winter. We messaged for 2 hours. He didn't flirt too hard, didn't ask for more photos, didn't say I was different from other girls. He asked what song I played when I cleaned my apartment. I told him, an old jazz recording my mother used to play on Sundays. He sent back, that song sounds like someone forgiving a room. I stared at that message longer than I should have. No one had ever described my sadness that accurately. A week passed. The order screen behaved. Mara's face appeared on local news sites, then disappeared beneath other headlines. A stolen car, a Merrill scandal, rain warnings. The city swallowed her. Leo became routine. Morning texts. Voice notes at night. His voice was low and careful, with pauses that made me feel heard. He remembered everything. That I hated cinnamon in coffee. That I slept with the hallway light on. That I took the 1:12 a.m. train home after late shifts because the 12:48 had too many drunk men. That I used to be called Nell when I was little. I had not told him that. I sat on my bed, phone glowing in my hand, radiator hissing beside me. How did you know that? I typed. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. You mentioned it once, he replied. I scrolled back through our messages. I had not mentioned it. Maybe I had in a voice note. Maybe I was overthinking. I told myself it made sense. The next strange order came on a Thursday. Rain again. Harder this time. Needles against the windows. The cafe smelled of burnt espresso and wet wool. A man in a gray scarf stood near the pickup counter, arguing quietly into his phone. The screen flashed. Daniel Price, black coffee, 12:03 a.m. No one had ordered. I felt my stomach tighten. The man in the gray scarf lowered his phone. Can I just get a black coffee? He asked. I looked at him. What name? Daniel. The printer clicked. My hands went cold. Are you okay? He asked. I wanted to tell him not to leave. I wanted to say, your name appeared before you spoke it, and the time means something, and I think the city has teeth. Instead I said, long shift. At 12:03, Daniel Price stepped outside to take a call. A black sedan pulled to the curb. He leaned down toward the passenger window. Then he got in. The car drove away without headlights for half a block. By morning, his sister had posted online. Has anyone seen Daniel? This time I went to the police. I brought both receipts. The officer was tired. Kind, but tired. Could be someone hacking the ordering system, she said. And the people missing? We're looking at all possibilities. That was police language for, you sound scared and scared people connect things. I left the station under a sky the color of metal. My phone buzzed. Leo, you did the right thing. I stopped walking. Rain slid down my neck. What? Asterisk going to the police. It must have been frightening. Asterisk. I had not told him. I looked around the street. Cars hissed through puddles. A cyclist passed with a blinking red light. A woman under a yellow umbrella laughed into her phone. No one looked at me. My phone buzzed again. Asterisk, don't worry. I'm close. Asterisk. I blocked him. For the first hour, it felt powerful. Then the emails began. No subject lines. Just attachments. A photo of my cafe from across the street. A screenshot of my dating profile before I changed it. A voice note that sounded like me saying, "I'm fine, really." But I had never recorded it. My own voice. My own little tired laugh. AI, I thought. I had read about it. Voice cloning. Scraped audio. A few seconds enough to imitate a person. The next email had a map. My apartment building circled in red. Then a line of text. "You are easier to understand than you think." I deleted every account I could remember making. Instagram. Old Facebook. The dating app. A forgotten blog from college. A shopping account with my saved address. A playlist profile with my real name attached. But deletion is not disappearance. The internet keeps fingerprints. The cafe manager told me the system vendor found no obvious breach. "Probably a prank," he said, rubbing his eyes. "Don't let it get in your head." But it was already there. In my head. In my apartment. In the quiet between appliance hums. I started seeing patterns everywhere. A man pausing too long outside the laundromat. A reflection in the train window. Footsteps behind me that stopped when I stopped. One night, after work, I found a paper cup outside my apartment door. From my cafe. On the side, written in black marker. Nell, chamomile tea, 2:17 a.m. My childhood nickname. My favorite tea when I couldn't sleep. The exact time I got home. I didn't scream. Fear, at a certain depth, becomes very quiet. I backed away from the door and called the officer from the station. Her name was Reyes. She answered on the third ring, voice rough with sleep. "Don't go inside," she said. I sat on the stairs until the police arrived. They found no one in the apartment. Nothing stolen. No forced entry. But my laptop was warm. Someone had used it. The webcam light had been disabled with a software exploit. My browser history had been cleared. In the trash, they found a deleted folder of exported messages, photos, and voice notes. Reyes looked at me differently after that. Not like I was fragile. Like I was evidence. The cafe system logs finally gave them something. The orders were not supernatural. Not predictions. Scheduling. Remote access. Someone had inserted orders before the victims arrived, using data from their routines. The names, meals, and times were not prophecy. They were instructions. A script. A performance. Mara had been messaged by a fake account pretending to be her missing brother's friend. Daniel had been lured by a fake emergency involving his ex. Both were found later. Alive. Disoriented. Drugged but safe. In separate rented rooms paid for with stolen identities. The goal had not been killing. It had been control. Reyes said that like it was supposed to comfort me. It didn't. Then they found Leo. Except Leo wasn't Leo. His photos belonged to a therapist in Oregon. His voice notes were generated from several different male voices, softened and stitched together. His messages came from burner phones, public Wi-Fi, library computers, cafe networks, co-working spaces. His real name was Owen Vale, former cybersecurity contractor, terminated after complaints from women he had formed attachments to. Attachments, that was the word in the file. Not obsession, not stalking. Attachment. He had built lives around lonely people. Fake profiles, fake coincidences, fake intimacy. He studied grief the way other people studied weather. He knew when people were weakest, what they needed to hear, how to sound like safety. Mara had recently lost someone. Daniel had been in a custody dispute. And me. I had written one post, years ago, about feeling invisible in a relationship. Owen found it, saved it, built a version of himself around the shape of my wound. The confrontation happened on a Friday night. Of course, it was raining. I was in the cafe office with Reyes, watching security feeds while technicians traced a live login attempt. The jazz outside sounded warped through the wall. Cups clinked. Milk steamed. Normal life continued, shamelessly. Then the order screen flashed. Eleanor Vale, black coffee, 1:09 a.m. Not my last name. His. My breath caught. The office phone rang. Reyes nodded for me to answer while another officer began tracing. I lifted the receiver. Static. Then a voice. Leo's voice. "You were doing so well," he said. Not angry. Disappointed. Almost tender. "You don't know me," I said. "I know the parts you hide because people mishandled them." His calmness made my skin crawl. "You stole them." A pause. Rain tapped the office window. "You wanted to be seen." "No," I said. "I wanted to be safe." For the first time, he said nothing. On the monitor, a man in a dark coat entered the cafe. Hood up, head lowered. He stood near the counter. Too still. Reyes touched her radio. The man looked directly at the camera, then at the office door. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from an unknown number. Asterisco come out talone, nil. I don't want them to misunderstand us, asterisk. I laughed then, a small broken sound, because that was the whole sickness of him. Us. There was no us. There had only been a man standing behind glass, mistaking surveillance for intimacy. Reyes opened the office door first. The officers moved fast, calm, practiced. Owen did not run. He only looked at me as they turned him around. He was ordinary. That was the worst part. Not a monster's face. Not a shadow. Just a tired man with soft eyes and rain on his collar. "You'll miss being understood," he said. I held his gaze. "No," I said. "I'll miss who I thought I was talking to." His expression changed. A tiny fracture. Then they took him outside. The neon swallowed him red, then blue, then gone. Afterward, the city did not become safe. That was the part no one tells you. Police reports end. News cycles move on. Passwords change. Locks get replaced. But the body remembers patterns. A phone buzzing at midnight. A car slowing near the curb. A song starting in another room. For months, I could not drink chamomile tea. I covered my webcam with tape. I stopped using my childhood nickname, even in my own head. But slowly, I returned to myself. Not the old self. Something sharper. Something less willing to confuse attention with care. I still work nights sometimes. The cafe still hums. Rain still turns the street into a trembling mirror. Soft jazz still plays when the manager forgets to change the playlist. Every now and then, the order screen flickers. Just a normal glitch. Probably. And when it does, I feel that old coldness move through me. Then I breathe. I look around. I remind myself that fear can be information, but it cannot be my home. Trust is not the same as access. Love is not the same as being studied. And privacy is not secrecy. It is the quiet room inside you that no one is allowed to enter without knocking. Story 5. The Burger King sat on the edge of a wet avenue where the city forgot to look clean. At night, the windows turned black. Neon bled across the glass in red and blue streaks. Cars hissed through rainwater. The bus stop outside glowed under a flickering ad for perfume. A woman's face smiling like she knew something terrible. I started working there 3 weeks after I moved into the city. 3 weeks after Daniel left, or after I left him. Some days the difference mattered. Some days it didn't. My apartment was above a closed laundromat. The pipes knocked at night. The refrigerator hummed like an insect behind the wall. I slept with one lamp on because silence had started feeling like a person standing in the room. The job was supposed to be simple. Registers, fries, mopping, closing, routine. I needed routine. The restaurant had been renovated badly. New screens, new counters, new menu boards glowing too bright. But in the back corner, behind cloudy glass and yellow caution tape, there was the old children's play area. It had been closed for years. Plastic sheets hung over the tunnels and slides. They moved slightly when the air conditioning kicked on. The glass was smeared with old fingerprints from children who had grown up, moved away, forgotten the place. On my first closing shift, I stood staring at it while rain tapped the front windows. My manager, Reza, saw me. "Don't open that after sunset," he said. He didn't say it dramatically. That made it worse. I laughed a little. "Is that a legal thing?" "Insurance. Safety. Cameras don't cover inside." He looked tired. His shirt smelled like fryer oil and mint gum. Then he added softer, people hear things. What things? He wiped the counter slowly. Kids laughing. I waited for him to smile. He didn't. That night, at 1:17 a.m., while I was emptying ketchup packets into a bin, I heard it. Laughter. Small. Bright. Muffled behind plastic. It came from the play area. I froze with my hand inside the trash bag. The refrigerators hummed. Rain clicked against the glass. Somewhere far away, a siren rose and faded. Then it happened again. A child giggling. I told myself it was a pipe, a speaker, some weird acoustic trick from the street. I wanted to believe it. I had gotten good at believing things that made life easier. The next morning, tiny handprints covered the inside of the play area glass. From the inside, 5 fingers, palm, drag marks, too small to be an adult. Reza stared at them for a long time. Then he cleaned them himself. Nobody talked about it during lunch rush. That week, I met Adrian, not in the restaurant. On a dating app one had downloaded and deleted 3 times. His profile was quiet. No shirtless mirror photo. No dead fish. Just one picture of him in a cafe, looking down at a book, rain blurred behind him. His first message said, "You look like someone who misses quiet places." I should have found it too accurate. Instead, I felt seen. We met at a cafe 2 blocks from my apartment. Soft jazz played from a speaker near the ceiling. The windows were fogged. Outside, people walked under umbrellas like dark moving shapes. Adrian listened more than he talked. That was dangerous. After Daniel, attention felt like oxygen. Daniel had corrected everything. My tone, my clothes, the way I smiled at waiters. He made me feel like a room with all the furniture moved slightly out of place. Adrian didn't correct. He noticed. "You keep touching your sleeve when you're nervous," he said gently. I pulled my hand away. "Sorry." "Don't be," he said. "It's just something your body learned." That sentence broke something open in me. I told myself it was kindness. Maybe I was overthinking. A few nights later, my phone buzzed during closing. A voice note from Adrian. I pressed play while stacking trays. His voice came through warm and low. "Rain again. I hope the walk home doesn't feel too lonely tonight." Behind me, from the covered play area, I heard the faint sound of children laughing. My phone slipped in my hand. I looked at the glass. The plastic sheets were still. The restaurant was empty. Then another buzz. A text from Adrian. "Don't stay too late in that corner." I stared at the screen. I hadn't told him about the play area. At least, I didn't think I had. Memory gets strange when you're lonely. It edits itself to protect you. I told myself maybe I mentioned it. Maybe during coffee. Maybe in passing. I told myself it made sense. The next week, small things started changing. A song I hadn't heard since college played on the restaurant speaker during closing. Not the radio version. A recording from an old playlist I had made under a nickname only Daniel used. Mara, my middle name. Nobody called me that anymore. When I asked Reza about the music, he frowned. "We don't control the playlist." "Then who does?" "Corporate." But his eyes went to the play area. That night, I found a napkin on the counter after everyone left. Written in black marker. "Mara likes cinnamon coffee after 10 p.m. My stomach tightened. Only one cafe near my apartment made cinnamon coffee. Only one barista knew I ordered it after late shifts. I threw the napkin away. Then I took it back out. I photographed it. My hands shook. At home, the hallway outside my apartment smelled like wet concrete and old paint. A neighbor's television murmured through the wall. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A voice note. I should not have opened it. I did. It was Daniel's voice. Soft. Apologetic. "Mara, I know you're scared, but you always get scared when someone loves you too closely." I dropped the phone on the bed. My chest locked. Daniel lived 3 states away. Daniel did not have my new number. And the voice was almost perfect. Almost. There was a tiny flatness on certain words. A digital smoothness. Like emotion had been painted over metal. AI voice cloning. I had read about it online. Scams. Fake calls. Generated voices trained from social media videos. But reading about something is different from hearing your old life breathe through your phone. The next day, Adrian came to the restaurant. Not as a customer. He arrived during the rain, his coat dark at the shoulders, hair damp, holding 2 coffees. "I was nearby," he said. I looked at the cup. "Cinnamon." "You remembered," he said. I hadn't told him my order. He smiled softly. "You posted it once." "I don't post much." "Old account." The words entered me slowly. Old account. I had deleted everything after Daniel. Or I thought I had. Photos, captions, check-ins, playlists, harmless little pieces of myself left across the internet like hair in a drain. Adrian leaned closer. "You'd be surprised what people leave behind." His voice was calm, almost affectionate. I stepped back. The fryer beeped behind me. The play area glass reflected us together. We rigid, impatient. The plastic tunnels behind us like organs under a sheet. "You should go," I said. His face changed only a little. Not anger. Assessment. Like he was deciding which version of himself to use next. "I'm not Daniel," he said. I went cold. "I never told you his name." He blinked once, then smiled sadly. "You did." "No, you did, Mara." He said my name like he owned the quieter half of it. That night I searched him. Adrian Cross. Nothing. His dating profile had vanished. His photos led nowhere. Reverse image search showed a stock photography site. The cafe picture belonged to a man in Lisbon 7 years ago. I sat on my bed with my laptop glowing blue against my hands. Rain tapped the window. A car passed below. The laundromat sign buzzed through the floor. Isoftitzhata. Emails. Phone number. Username fragments. That was when I found the first woman. Her name was Elise. She had posted in an online forum 2 years earlier about a man who made fake profiles, learned her trauma history, sent voice notes using her dead father's voice, followed her work schedule, and left messages in places he should not have known. She called him a collector of lonely women. Not in a dramatic way, in a patient way. He studied them, mirrored them, became the shape of whatever comfort they needed most. Another woman called him by a different name, Julian. Another called him Mark. One post included a blurry security image from a parking garage. I zoomed in until the pixels broke apart. Same posture, same coat, same patient tilt of the head. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text. Research is a form of intimacy too. I stopped breathing. Then came another message. You should check the play area. I called Reza. No answer. I called the police non-emergency line, but my voice sounded thin and foolish even to me. A fake profile. Strange texts. A closed play area. Children laughing. The woman on the phone told me to save everything and avoid contact. Good advice. Useless in the moment, because I was already putting on my coat. The city looked unreal at midnight. Rain turned every street lamp into a wound of light. My footsteps slapped through puddles. Distant music leaked from a bar. A bus exhaled at the curb. When I reached the Burger King, the sign was still glowing. Reza's car was gone. The front door was locked, but the side door near the dumpsters was open. Just a crack. Inside, the restaurant smelled like bleach, oil, and cold bread. The appliances hummed. Somewhere, water dripped. I walked toward the play area. My phone buzzed again. Asterisk, don't worry. I cleaned first, asterisk. The glass was covered with handprints. Not small this time. Adult hands. From the inside, my reflection floated over them. Pale face. Wet hair. Eyes too wide. Behind the plastic sheets, a tiny speaker sat on the floor. Children laughing looped softly from it. Beside it were printed photos. Me entering my apartment. Me at the cafe. Me behind the counter. Me sleeping on the bus with my head against the window. There were notes taped to the plastic tunnels. Mara drinks cinnamon coffee. Mara checks the lock 3 times. Mara sleeps with the lamp on. Mara smiles when she is uncomfortable. The floor creaked behind me. I turned. Adrian stood near the counter. No hurry. No mask. Just him. or whoever he was. "You weren't supposed to come alone," he said. His voice was gentle, disappointed. My hand closed around my keys. "What do you want?" He looked almost hurt. "To be known," he said. "Same as you." "No." He nodded, like I had given the answer he expected. "You think privacy is safety. It isn't. Privacy is where people rot. I showed you how visible you already were. You stalked me. I listened. You built a person. I built what you needed." His calm was worse than shouting. The restaurant lights buzzed above us. Rain tapped the windows. The laughter looped behind me, bright and horrible. I backed toward the emergency exit. He took one step. My phone buzzed in my pocket. This time it was Reza. I answered without looking. "Police are outside," he said. Adrian stopped. For the first time, his face lost its design. Blue lights spilled across the windows. He looked at me, and something empty moved behind his eyes. Not fear, loss of control. That was all he had ever loved. The police found drives in his backpack, burner phones, printed schedules, a small audio recorder, a device connected to the restaurant's old speaker wiring, access cards, fake IDs, files named with women's first names. Mine was not the first. That fact comforted me and destroyed me. Reza had called the police after seeing the side door alert on his phone. He had also kept camera clips from nights when Adrian entered through the employee corridor using a copied keycard. The children's laughter had been downloaded audio. The handprints were his. The old nickname came from a forgotten poetry blog I made when I was 19. The Daniel voice came from videos I had never deleted. Everything impossible had an explanation. That did not make it feel less impossible. Months later, I moved again. Not far, just enough. My new apartment faces an alley and a small bakery. In the morning, the ovens breathe warm sugar into the street. At night, the fridge still hums. Pipes still knock. Rain still taps the glass with patient fingers. I do not use dating apps. I changed my number. I locked my accounts. I learned what metadata was. I learned how much of a person can be assembled from leftovers. A favorite song, a bus route, a nickname, a coffee order, a face reflected in a window. Sometimes, when I pass a fast food restaurant at night and see the plastic tunnels of a children's play area glowing in the dark, I feel my body remember before my mind does. My hand touches my sleeve. My breath shortens. I keep walking. People think trust is opening a door. It isn't. Trust is deciding who gets to know the shape of your silence. An obsession begins when someone mistakes that silence for an invitation. Story 6. Rain tapped the windows of my apartment like a nervous heartbeat. I sat on the edge of the couch, hoodie damp, staring at the muted glow of my phone. My reflection in the dark glass was fractured. Hair plastered to my face. Eyes tired. Breakup still raw. Empty. Months of therapy, journal entries, guided breathing. None of it erased the sense that I'd been forgotten in the world. I stared at the message from Lila. "You in for tonight? Could be fun. Just a small project." A project. They didn't know I'd been avoiding people, avoiding myself. But I replied anyway. Yes. Maybe I needed this. Something to distract me from the echoing apartment, the empty fridge, the hum of silence that followed me everywhere. The abandoned Burger King was at the edge of the industrial district. Neon reflections from a broken cafe sign flickered on wet asphalt. Fog rolled low across the street. I could hear distant soft jazz from a car parked 2 blocks away, and the faint buzz of streetlights humming in unison. My boots splashed in puddles as we approached. Lila and Jonah were already there, cameras in hand. Jonah grinned. "Feels like a horror movie set already." Lila's eyes glinted in the dim light, excitement threaded with something I couldn't name. Warmth? Danger? I wanted to believe it was only warmth. The door creaked when we pushed it open. Air was damp, heavy, smelling of old grease and paint. The tiles were cracked, sticky, dust layered thick over counters. I could hear my own breathing, amplified in the hollow space. Footsteps echoed. We switched on our flashlights. Hundreds of paper crowns hung from the ceiling. some twisted, some yellowed. Each had a name written in a careful hand. Names we didn't recognize. Names that seemed ordinary. Until I saw mine. Mine. In careful script, Sam. And beneath it, tonight. My throat went dry. I stumbled back. Lila laughed nervously. Creepy, huh? I couldn't form the words. A cold weight pressed against my chest. My pulse was loud in my ears. Jonah tilted his head. Maybe a prank? Some old employees, I don't know. It's abandoned. But the date, tonight, that was impossible. I wanted to rationalize it. I wanted to tell myself it made sense. Maybe coincidence. Maybe someone knew my name from social media. Maybe the universe had a cruel sense of humor. I told myself it made sense. I told myself. Lila stepped closer. She smelled like coffee and vanilla. Hey, it's okay. You're safe. I'm here. Her voice was calm, anchoring, warm. I wanted to believe her. I told myself I did. We moved deeper. Shadows stretched across broken counters. The flashing light of our cameras made the crowns dance. I noticed one had a date from 2 years ago. Jamie, March 15th, 24. My stomach twisted. These weren't random. They were records. A faint phone buzz. Mine. But the screen showed no notifications. No app, no message. Just vibration. Then a text, looking at you. Don't look back. I froze. Lila and Jonah were filming, oblivious, laughing. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. Instead, I swallowed. I told myself it made sense. Probably a coincidence. Probably a joke. We split up to film different angles. I moved to the corner by the play area. Broken slides, old plastic balls scattered. A whisper of movement behind me. Footsteps? My own imagination? Then Lila appeared softly. You okay? Her hand brushed my shoulder. My body jerked, but I didn't pull away. She knew too much. My favorite coffee. My favorite seat at the cafe. Even the way I twisted my hair when nervous. She had never been inside my apartment. Never in my life, until tonight. And yet she knew. I rationalized it. I wanted to believe it. She was warm. She was safe. I needed that. The footsteps came again. Not mine. Echoing. Slow. Methodical. Always just behind. The crowning ceiling seemed to lower, pressing down on me. I looked up. Hundreds of names dangling in the dark. Some crossed out. Some with dates that had passed. Some upcoming. I noticed a figure in the shadows. Someone who wasn't Lila or Jonah. Watching. Quiet. I froze. Breath hitched. Phone buzzed again. Text. Do you see me? I dropped my flashlight. The beam rolled across the floor, catching the figure. Gone. Only the dangling crowns reflected back, their paper faces staring at me. Lila crouched beside me, calm, watching me, observing. Hey, it's just us. You're okay. It's okay. I wanted to believe her. I wanted her to be safe. I told myself I wasn't overthinking. I told myself it made sense. But then I found the burner phone in the corner. Small, unmarked. Screen lit up with a single message. Sam, don't forget. Tonight. I felt ice seep through me. Every routine, every coffee, every quiet moment in my apartment, it was known. Documented. Watched. Jonah's laughter echoed from the far corner. I ran. Through the hallways, past counters, the crown ceiling brushing my hair. I needed to leave. Needed to breathe. Needed to escape. Lila caught up. Calmly. Wait. Don't panic. I can help you. Her eyes too precise. Too observant. I saw the truth. The police came hours later. They traced digital footprints, burner phones, metadata. Multiple accounts. Fake personas. Photos from the abandoned site, from social media, from my apartment. An obsessive campaign of surveillance and control, masked as intimacy. I survived, but not untouched. I walk past neon reflections now. Footsteps echo in empty streets. Rain tapping windows, distant music, soft jazz through cracked walls. It all feels like a warning. I never look at a paper crown again without a shiver. I think about trust, privacy, the fragility of identity, about people who construct intimacy from obsession. And I realize memory is a cage, and someone somewhere is always watching. I am alive, but I am not the same. Never will be. Story 7. The rain hit hard that night. I was alone at the counter, wiping down tables with the fluorescent lights humming above me. Outside, neon signs fractured into puddles. Cars passed slowly, leaving red streaks across black asphalt. My boots squeaked against the wet tiles. I had moved here 3 months ago. New city, new apartment, new everything, except the loneliness. It followed me like a shadow, curling under my coat, sticking to my skin. Divorce papers still lay folded in the bottom drawer of my dresser. I hadn't unpacked them. I didn't know if I wanted to. I was finishing the closing shift at Burger King, my fingers numb from cold and cleaning spray, when the door chimed. 5 minutes before closing. He walked in slowly. Wet coat, umbrella dripping. No urgency, just calm. I paused mid-wipe. "Evening," I said. "Evening," he replied. His voice was soft, deliberate, familiar without familiarity. He didn't glance at the menu. Ordered something simple, cash and old bills, slightly faded with time. Coins clinking. No card, no phone. Just money that had lived in someone else's hand before mine. I rang it up, handed him the change. He nodded and carried it to a corner table. Saturday. Didn't eat. Just stared at the wall, at the muted neon reflections in the puddles outside. Something about him made me stop breathing. Hours passed in silence. The rain tapped on the windows. The fryers had cooled. The soda machine hummed like a low heartbeat. I kept glancing at him. Then I noticed the photo wall. The restaurant's opening day. Yellowed newspaper clippings behind glass, smiling faces from decades ago. And there he was, older, younger, slightly different hair, the same eyes. I blinked, twice. The first time, I thought it was a trick of the fluorescent light. The second, I knew it wasn't. He looked up, directly at me. "You finally noticed," he said. I froze. His voice wasn't loud, not demanding, just certain. I wanted to laugh, wanted to brush it off, but I didn't, because inside, something already knew it wasn't ordinary. I hadn't slept properly since moving. A small apartment with thin walls, rain tapping on the glass, my phone buzzing with notifications that weren't mine, a neighbor's bass sneaking through the ceiling. I lived inside a city that was supposed to feel alive. Instead, it felt like it was listening. Jonah, that's what I called him in my head. The man who was comforting, attentive, quiet in the right way. Who remembered the name of my favorite cafe before I even told him. Who texted me just when I was thinking of him, without ever seeming invasive. I told myself I could trust him. "I'm overthinking," I whispered to the empty apartment. Maybe I was. The next day, I found a folder in the back office. Dusty, labeled history. Inside, every opening day photo, every staff member listed. Names, shifts, birthdays. And there he was again. Same eyes, same faint crease at the corner of his mouth. I shook my head. "This is ridiculous," I told myself. Weeks passed. Jonah became indispensable. He knew when I liked tea, when I needed a walk, what song helped me sleep. He wasn't invasive, not at first, but he always knew. My routines, my apartment, my old habits. I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe it was coincidence that he could time a message to arrive exactly when the soft jazz played through my walls. Maybe it was coincidence that he referenced a childhood nickname I never mentioned to anyone. I wanted to believe it. Then the email started. Strangers thanking me for uploading photos, or asking about my habits, or referencing places I had only visited once. Jonah explained it away. "Metadata," he said. "Not your fault." I told myself it made sense. But one night, the rain was heavier. The city soaked in neon. I heard it. Footsteps in the apartment above. Floor creaks that weren't usually there. A soft sigh. My phone buzzed. No number. A message. "You like the jazz late." I know. I dropped the phone. I stopped going out alone. Started checking locks twice, 3 times. I covered the camera on my laptop. My apartment smelled of fear, boiled water, and overused laundry detergent. Jonah called. "You look tired," he said softly. "I'm fine," I whispered. "I know what you did yesterday." I froze. "I what?" He didn't answer immediately, only the hum of his voice. Calm, observant, softly invasive. "The coffee shop. You left at 3:17. You didn't take an umbrella. Rain soaked your jacket." I told myself it was detail. Small observation. Maybe he was just careful. But every observation was personal. Too personal. Then came the newspaper clipping. Old. Faded. Yellowed. A headline I didn't know. Burger King opening day, 1978. And there he was. Younger, maybe my age in another life. Smiling at the camera. Hand in hand with the owner. I didn't know what to think. "Who are you?" I whispered to the empty kitchen after closing. "I've always been here," he said. My reflection stared back from the stainless steel. "You?" "I never left," he said. "Not really." By the time I realized he had been manipulating everything, the spiral was complete. Dating apps, social media, fake profiles, emails, metadata, AI-voiced messages, burner phones, locations tracked without consent. All of it, every comfort he offered, every kindness had been calculated. Surveillance dressed as attention, care disguised as obsession. I went to the police, evidence in hand, photos, voice notes, metadata logs, the antique bills he used, the subtle messages. They were cautious, serious, but even they hesitated when I showed the newspaper clippings. "The man," the older detective said, "has been doing this for decades. He had multiple identities, multiple victims, constructed personas that fit each target perfectly. And Jonah? A mask. The confrontation was quiet. Burger King, empty, rain pouring outside. Officers with flashlights. I stayed back. He appeared from the shadows, calm, observant. "You noticed," he said. "It took you long enough." I didn't respond. They arrested me. Calmly. No struggle. No theatrics. Just reality closing in. Weeks later I moved. Again. Changed numbers. Closed accounts. Covered cameras. Tried to reclaim normal. But silence is a fragile thing. Rain tapping on windows. Soft jazz through walls. Every door, every reflection carried memory. I think about trust now. About boundaries. About how easy it is to confuse comfort with control. I survived. But I am not the same. People leave traces. In cities. In apartments. In phones. In hearts. And some people follow them. Perfectly. The last customer was never hungry. He was just waiting. For me. For the story I didn't know I was writing. For the trust one once gave freely. And I learned that privacy is not just a lock on the door. It's a claim to the self. A place obsession can never touch. Even when someone has watched, listened, and waited for decades. Even when they've smiled across time and space, knowing every secret you thought was yours. I survive. I remember. I wonder if it was ever really about me, or if it was always about the person I had been, invisible in plain sight, until someone decided to make me noticed. And now I wonder, how many more are out there, patiently waiting in the corner, counting the minutes before the lights go out? Story 8. Rain had been tapping my window all evening, soft at first, then harder, like a slow drum rolling across the city. The neon signs outside pooled in puddles, blurred red and blue reflecting in the wet asphalt. I sat on the edge of the kitchen counter, mug in hand, staring at the humming refrigerator. My apartment smelled faintly of burnt coffee and cleaning products. It smelled like loneliness. I had moved here after everything fell apart, Mark gone, my apartment abandoned, the echoes of arguments bouncing in my skull. Divorce papers in a folder I couldn't open. Nights when silence felt dangerous. Nights when I wanted to disappear inside my own apartment and never be found. I worked the late shift at a small diner downtown. Quiet. Nothing like the chaos of the day. Only me, the fridge, the hum of the freezers, and the occasional clink of dishes in the back. That's when it started. The freezer door. It was old, industrial, humming with a low, constant vibration. Every few nights, it would creak open. Not a push, not a gust, just open. Cold air would pour into the kitchen, sharp and biting, smelling faintly of smoke, like something had burned somewhere I couldn't see. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Then I checked the security footage. A shadow stood inside the freezer, tall, still, like it had always belonged there. But every time I called a co-worker back to the kitchen, it was empty. Nothing. Just the cold and the smell of smoke lingering in the metal air. I told myself it was a trick of light, a reflection from the neon outside, maybe a reflection of me. I wanted to believe it. Then came the voice. It was late, after closing, everyone gone, the rain pattering against the diner windows like static. I watched the camera feed from my laptop at home. The freezer door opened again. This time, a whisper drifted through the speakers, soft and deliberate. Julia, my name, spoken in a calm, familiar voice. I almost dropped the laptop. I lived alone. No one had a key. I hadn't told anyone my work schedule outside the app. My co-workers didn't know my apartment number. I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe someone had cloned the audio feed. Maybe it was a glitch. The next night, he texted. His name was Simon, or so I thought. Profile picture, soft smile, apartment plants behind him, a bookshelf stacked with novels I'd never read but wanted to. I met him on a dating app. Rough night. I hesitated before replying. You have no idea. He answered with care. No pressure, no neediness, just observation. You should make chamomile tea. It'll help. I paused. I hadn't mentioned chamomile. Not to anyone. Not online. I told myself it made sense. Maybe he remembered from our first conversation. Maybe coincidence. I wanted to believe him. He asked subtle questions. My favorite cafe, my favorite street to walk at night, the song I always hummed while cleaning dishes. Nothing dangerous. Just precise. I told myself it was sweet, thoughtful, caring. Then the freezer door opened again. Cold air, smoke smell, static on the camera. And this time, he was in the shadow. I saw it, tall still, watching. The camera didn't lie. I didn't want to believe it. I started noticing patterns. Texts arriving moments after I thought of something. Music I hadn't streamed playing through my headphones minutes after I had hummed it. A latte from my favorite cafe left outside my door with no note. My mug from home in the sink at work. Julia, you're tense tonight, Simon said one evening through a voice note. His voice was soft, calm, almost amused. I hadn't told him I had a tension headache. Not in words, not in text. The freezer door opened again the next night. Longer this time. The cold air came rushing, smoke curling out. The camera showed a figure inside. I could feel it watching me through the feed. Then I heard it clearly. Julia, it whispered, like my name had been waiting there all along. I stopped breathing. I shut the laptop, locked my doors, checked the windows. Floors creaked. The radiator clicked. Appliances hummed. My apartment sounded alive in a way that felt malevolent. Simon, or Adrian, as I'd later learn, was everywhere. Somehow, knowing everything, seeing everything, always just beyond reach. I rationalized it. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe I had left footprints online. Maybe someone had tracked me. Maybe it was a prank. I didn't want to admit the truth. Someone was inside my life. The spiral began. I noticed his digital traces. The burner phone he left by the freezer, the camera metadata, the AI voice notes cloned from old videos I'd recorded for friends. He knew my routines. What time I brewed tea, what aisle I went down in the grocery store, what books I thumbed through at the corner cafe. He knew my nickname, Lulu, from childhood. He knew the song I hummed in the shower. Everything. And I still wanted to believe it made sense. I started documenting. Photos, screenshots, voice notes, everything. But the freezer door kept opening. Cold air, smoke, shadow. Sometimes a whisper. Always my name. I couldn't sleep. I could hear him in the city noises. Rain tapping the window. Footsteps in the hallway. Distant jazz drifting from the bar downstairs. The hum of refrigerators from nearby apartments. Phones buzzing in the dead of night. All of it became Simon's voice. All of it became him. I moved apartments. Thought it would help. Thought distance was protection. It followed me. The burner phone appeared outside my new apartment door. Photos of me walking to work, reflections in windows. Notes typed in documents with my routines listed. Metadata from photos I had shared years ago. He had built a life parallel to mine, using fragments I didn't know existed. I went to the police, filed reports, screenshots, voice notes, the freezer door, photos, texts, everything. They took it seriously but couldn't fully understand. No weapon, no direct threat, only obsessive surveillance, only psychological invasion. Months later, they identified him, Adrian Vale. He had worked part-time for cleaning crews, with access to multiple restaurants, including mine. He created fake profiles, followed women he chose meticulously, cloned voices, collected metadata. He didn't just want attention. He wanted a map of lives. My life. The freezer door was just one piece. The confrontation happened in a sterile office with one-way glass. I sat across from him, trying to reconcile the calm voice with the shadow in my kitchen. "I never touched you," he said. I could see the smile twitching under his calm. I watched. I waited. I mapped. I learned. You knew my routines, my nickname, my favorite song. He nodded, almost proudly. You left it in pieces. I just noticed. Everything fell into place. All the strange coincidences. The tea, the chamomile, the text at 2:13 a.m., the freezer door. I realized then that fear is not always a sudden strike. Sometimes it's methodical, patient, quiet, waiting in the hum of appliances, the rhythm of rain, the reflection in windows. Adrian Vale was arrested, his devices seized, his accounts deactivated, but the psychological residue stayed. I still check locks twice, still cover webcams, still avoid apps I once loved. I work different shifts now. Mornings, the sun leaks into my apartment. I can breathe, but nights are harder. Rain reminds me. Humming refrigerators remind me. Shadows in reflective glass remind me. I learned that attention can be both warmth and weapon. That privacy is not just physical, but emotional and digital. That trust can be invaded not by force, but by careful observation. I survived. I am still alive, but I am not the same. Some nights, I stand in my kitchen, mug in hand, staring at the refrigerator. Cold air hums. The hum of old appliances fills the silence. And I wonder, what do we leave behind that others can collect? What is visible, even when we think we are alone? And what does it mean when the person who knows every detail is not the one who loves us, but the one who watches? The freezer door never opens again, but I hear it still in the shadows, and I will never hear my name the same way again. Story 9. Rain glossed the city like wet glass. Neon bled from signs into puddles, smearing red and blue across the asphalt. I could hear the hum of the train under the streets, soft jazz drifting from an open cafe down the corner, and the occasional siren far away, stretched thin through fog. I had moved here 6 months ago. Moved because everything back home had been too sharp to touch. Too many words left unsaid, too many apologies swallowed. A divorce that felt more like a warning. A small apartment with a radiator that hissed at night. I slept with the curtains drawn, phone under my pillow, coffee cup in hand, trying to convince myself that quiet was safety. Tonight, I was working the late shift at a small diner near the train station. The kind of place that never sleeps, with a neon open sign that buzzed like a nervous heartbeat and a register that occasionally clicked in conversation with itself. The door opened. Wet shoes squeaked across the tile. "Do you have the secret menu?" the customer asked. I laughed softly, brushing a damp strand of hair from my face. "Secret menu?" I said, raising my eyebrows. "I don't think so. We have sandwiches and coffee." But before I could move on, the register whirred. A receipt slid out. I picked it up, confused. Order accepted. Payment due at midnight. I frowned. There was no item listed. No price. The kitchen lights flickered. The grill turned on. Alone, I could feel its hum vibrating the floor under my feet. I glanced at the empty dining room. No one had pressed any buttons. I told myself it was a glitch. Maybe a wiring issue. Maybe I was too tired. I carried the receipt home. On the bus, rain tapped against the windows like impatient fingers. My apartment smelled of cold plaster and dust. I stacked the receipt on the counter, staring at it. Midnight was hours away. Hours passed slowly. My phone buzzed. A message from a dating app, a man named Adrian. Soft smile, cropped black hair, eyes that seemed to notice the silence in the world around him. He asked what book I was reading. The loneliness of being watched, I typed. He replied, "Isn't that what we all are sometimes?" I laughed, felt a little less empty. He texted every night after that. Voice notes, gentle, careful, questions that made me feel seen. He remembered things I had never told him. The way I liked my toast, the song I hummed when washing dishes, that I used to call myself Nell when I was little. I rationalized. I wanted to believe it. Maybe I was overthinking. I told myself it made sense. The order started again. At 11:11 p.m., the register printed by itself. Nell, BLT, 11:57 p.m. I froze. My nickname, my favorite sandwich, my exact shift end time. I laughed once sharply, told myself it was coincidence. I stayed at the counter, heart hammering against my ribs, as the kitchen lights flickered again. The grill hissed. No one was there. The next night, Adrian sent a message before I arrived at work. "Be careful tonight. They're watching." I froze. Who? No reply. I rationalized again. He's trying to be attentive. He's worried. But I started noticing details. Footsteps outside my apartment when none should be there. Shadows in the hallway. My favorite cafe mug, the one I thought I had left in storage, was on my counter. My laptop powered on by itself one morning. Voice notes in my own voice I didn't remember recording. Emails arrived from addresses I didn't recognize. Attachments of my apartment from the outside. Screenshots of my social media before I deleted it. Metadata that marked my every movement. The cafe orders were precise. They always listed an item I liked, a name I recognized, a time I would be somewhere alone. Every receipt felt like a warning. Adrian, or Owen, as I later discovered, was always there. Calm, patient, observing. He knew routines, private habits, favorite songs, old nicknames, memories I had never shared. I told myself he couldn't know. Maybe I was imagining it, but the spiral deepened. A week later, the register printed again. Nell, chocolate milkshake, 12:03 a.m. I was alone. The kitchen lights flickered. The hum of the grill rose in pitch. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Come out. I want to show you something. I wanted to delete everything. Leave the city. Run. But I stayed. I watched the clock. Midnight approached. Adrian called. His voice was soft, melodic, coaxing. "I know it's frightening. Let me help you." "You don't know anything," I said. "I know enough to keep you safe," he said. I wanted to believe it. At midnight, the diner door opened. Rain hissed through the gaps. Footsteps echoed. Slow, deliberate. A man's coat hung heavy, hood low. Head down. He paused by the counter. My stomach clenched. "Adrian," I whispered. He raised his eyes. They were not Adrian's. Calm, measured, intelligent, but not comforting. Observant, calculating. "You were doing well," he said. "You thought you could hide. That's cute." Panic hit me. Phone clattered to the floor. I scrambled, but he was inside, calm, stepping forward. The neon reflected red across the floor. The hum of the grill vibrated through my shoes. The police had traced him before I realized it. Adrian was a constructed persona. Multiple burner phones, AI-generated voice notes, public Wi-Fi, metadata harvested from everything I had ever posted online. He had done this before. Other women, other secret orders, other midnight payments. The receipts were not supernatural. They were instructions, lures, control. He tried to talk, manipulate, explain. Attachment is not obsession, he said. It's care. But the officers stormed in, calm, practiced. They let him out, ordinary in appearance, unremarkable. Not monstrous. That was worse. The rain washed the streets. Neon smeared into mirrors. My heart slowed, then pounded again. I survived. But the city felt different. The cafe still hummed. Rain still tapped the windows. Jazz still played through thin walls. The orders sometimes flicker on the register. I tell myself glitch. I breathe. I remind myself fear is information. But it cannot live in your apartment unless you invite it. Trust is fragile. Privacy is sacred. Memory is vulnerable. And safety is not a place. It's the quiet space you carve inside yourself where no one can enter without knocking. I still make my BLT at home. I still drink chocolate milkshakes. But I never use the nickname Nell anymore. The secret menu exists, I learned. Not in the diner. Not in the city. Not in neon reflections or soft jazz. It exists in the knowledge someone has about you before you know it yourself, and in the courage it takes to reclaim it.